My name is Joni Liverand and I'm a licensed Israeli tour guide. We're standing at a site known as Ancient Bethel. This is located right past the modern settlement of Bethel, just north of Yerushalayim. Bethel is associated with the patriarch Yaakov and his dream with the ladder. As it states in Chumash Bereshit, Genesis chapter 28, Vayetze Yaakov mi Be'er Sheva vayelech Harana vayifka hamakom. And Yaakov left Be'er Sheva and he went to Haran, and he encountered the place. Later the Torah states, Vayikra et Shem hamakom ahu Bethel, v'ulam Shem ha'ir Luz. And he called the name of that place Bethel. However, Luz was its name. We're standing at a place with a large natural bedrock. This is the area where legend has it that Yaakov took many rocks, surrounded them around him for protection, and had a dream. The dream showed angels ascending and descending a ladder, the top of which reached heaven. During this dream, Hashem promised to protect Yaakov, return him to this land, and give this land to his offspring. After Yaakov awoke and realized the wondrous of this place due to Hashem's appearance to him, he then changed the name of the place from Luz to Bethel. It next states that Yaakov took the rock, one rock that had formed from all the rocks, and made it as a pillar and poured a libation on it. How do archaeologists know that this was the place of Yaakov's dream? There are no rocks calling to the archaeologists to test for Yaakov's DNA to prove that he was here. In fact, until the 1980s, archaeologists believed that the ancient Bethel was not here, but in fact in a nearby Arab town, Beitin. In the 1980s, an archaeologist, Ze'ev Vilnai, excavated here. Finding ancient ruins, Vilnai determined that this was the ancient Bethel, and this open area was the location of Yaakov's dream. This would have happened over 3,500 years ago. Right near this area is an ancient building, a makam. This makam is an Arab shrine dedicated to Sheikh Abdullah. Abdullah means the servant of God. The Muslims believe that the patriarchs were the founders of monotheism, and therefore they revered them as part of their religion as well. Sheikh Abdullah could be a reference to Yaakov, who was a servant of God. This shows that the Muslims believed that this area was a place of holiness. Within the other side of the makam, one could see the arches that were part of Crusader architecture. This had been a Crusader chapel. So the Christians too had regarded this as a holy site on which they built their chapel. Walking further along, we see ruins which were perhaps from almost 3,000 years ago. Bethel was mentioned again in Tanakh in Melachim Aleph, 1 Kings, chapter 12. Yerovam ben Nevat, who lived in the 10th century BCE, became the first king of the Israelite kingdom, which had split from the Judean kingdom and the Davidic dynasty. Yerovam wanted a complete split between the two kingdoms, therefore forbidding the Israelites from going to the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, which was located in the Judean kingdom. Instead, Yerovam offered two alternatives. He built two altars on which he placed golden calves. One altar was placed all the way up north, at the northern end of his kingdom, in Tel Dan. Ruins of this site are still visible there. The second golden calf was placed here in Bethel. This was the most southern part of his kingdom. He also chose here because of the holiness that was associated with this site. His goal was not that these calves themselves would be worshipped, but that Hashem should be worshipped through them. Of course, as time passed, the calves themselves became idols and the objects of religious worship. Here are ruins of what had been a public building. You can see a low wall surrounding an area that is 30 by 10 meters. Vilnai claimed that this was the area where the temple had been. Further back, near an area which is higher, is another rubble of stone. Vilnai claimed that this high spot had been where the altar itself had been located. We see on the slope of a southern wall nearby, which appears to be the ruins of a tower. The Davidic dynasty did not accept the split into two kingdoms, and a number of wars were fought between them. Therefore, a tower had been erected to offer protection for this site. Some 300 years later, this altar is once again mentioned in Tanakh. In the time of King Yoshiyahu of the Davidic dynasty and in the 7th century BCE, he ordered that all altars outside of the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, must be destroyed. And so he came here and utterly destroyed the altar, its temple, and the golden calf, grinding it into powder after he burnt it. Many tombs were located here, some from the time of the first temple. The priests who had served the golden calf would want to be buried on holy ground. Therefore, their tombs would have been found near here. As they were false priests who worship idols, King Yoshiyahu exhumed their bones and burnt them as well. Evidence of fire has been discovered here. As we return near the exit, there is a tomb from the Second Temple period. Right near it is a 1,000-year-old oak tree that has been protected all these years because it was considered growing on sacred land. So we see how this area has been considered sacred land time and time again throughout the history and by all three monotheistic religions. Right near the site of Yaakov's dream is an observation tower offering a magnificent 360-degree panoramic view. One of the highest mountains in the area, Har Baal Chatzor, which is over 1,000 meters high, can be seen just to the north. This is believed to be the mountain where Avraham was located after parting from Lot, when Hashem came to him and told him to look around and see this tremendous view of this land, for this was the land he was giving to Avraham and his offspring. As it says in chapter 13, Ki et kol ha'aretz asher ata ro'eh lecha etnene u'zarecha le'olam. The whole land that you see is given to you and your offspring forever. This promise was once again reiterated in Yaakov's dream, as it says, V'haya za'arecha ka'afar ha'aretz u'farasta yama v'kedma safona v'nigba. And your offspring will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread west, east, north, and south. From this view, one can see the magnificent surroundings of the Binyamin region, and further in which we can see once again their Jewish settlement and the reclaiming of the land. So 3,500 years after Yaakov received his blessing, we see Hashem's promise being fulfilled again in our time.